The grand hall of the palace fell silent as Princess rose from her throne. Every eye in the massive chamber watched her, waiting. The princess was known across 47 star systems for her beauty and her impossible standards. Today marked the 47th time someone would hear her rejection. Lord Vex of the dynasty stood before her, his purple skin gleaming under the crystal lights. He was a decorated war hero, commander of 3 battle fleets and ruler of 6 planets. His chest was covered in medals. He had prepared for this moment for months. "Princess," he began, his voice echoing through the hall, "I offer you my fleet, my worlds, and my undying devotion. Together, we could rule half the galaxy." Looked at him with her dark eyes, her expression didn't change. "You offer me power I already have. You speak of ruling, not living. You see a crown, not a person." She paused. "I reject your proposal, Lord Vex." The crowd gasped. Lord Vex's face turned darker purple. He bowed stiffly and left the hall, his footsteps heavy with anger. The other nobles whispered among themselves. Another suitor failed. Another powerful alliance lost. Emperor's father sighed from his throne beside her. "Daughter, that was a war hero. The council will not be pleased." "The council is never pleased," replied quietly. "They want me to marry for power. I want to marry someone who sees me as not as princess." That evening, far across the palace grounds, a human named was having a terrible day. He knelt in the garden beside a gravity stabilizer that refused to work properly. The device kept the palace's floating sections from crashing into each other, and right now it was making a horrible grinding noise. "Overcomplicated nonsense," muttered, pulling out another circuit board. "Why use 10 components when 100 will do? Absolutely ridiculous." He didn't notice someone approaching until a voice spoke behind him. "Is there a problem?" Jumped, hitting his head on the metal panel. "Ow, yes, there's a problem. This whole system is designed by someone who never had to actually fix it." He turned around, rubbing his head. A young woman stood there, wearing a simple purple dress. She had long black hair and was watching him with curious eyes. Thought she might be a palace servant or maybe a minor noble. "You are from Earth?" she asked. "Yeah, part of the delegation. I'm just the engineer, though. The important people are inside talking politics." Turned back to his work. "I'm supposed to be reviewing the palace's technical systems, but honestly, everything here is so complicated it's a miracle it works at all." "Complicated?" The woman sounded amused. "Technology is the most advanced in the galaxy." "Advanced doesn't mean good," said, connecting 2 wires. "On Earth, we have a saying, keep it simple. If you can't fix it with basic tools, you've designed it wrong." The gravity stabilizer suddenly hummed to life, running smoothly. "See, sometimes the old ways work better." The woman smiled. "You fixed it." "Yeah, well, that's my job." Stood up, wiping his hands on his uniform. "Sorry if I complain too much. I know this is your people's technology. I'm, by the way." "I know," the woman said. "Tell me, from Earth, do all humans think our technology is nonsense?" "Not nonsense, just overcomplicated. Your ships are amazing, your medical tech saves lives, your energy systems are incredible, but you could make them easier to maintain." He paused. "Sorry, I'm probably being rude. The ambassador would kill me if she heard." "I will not tell your ambassador." The woman seemed genuinely interested. "What else do humans do differently?" They talked for almost an hour. Told her about Earth cities, about oceans and mountains, about music and art. The woman asked thoughtful questions, really listening to his answers. She didn't talk down to him or act superior like many did when speaking to humans. Found himself relaxing, enjoying the conversation. "I should go," the woman finally said. "The evening state dinner begins soon." "Yeah, me too. I have to put on a fancy uniform and stand in the corner looking official." Made a face. "Not really my thing, but duty calls." "Perhaps I will see you there," the woman said and walked away through the gardens. Watched her go, thinking she was probably the nicest he'd met so far. Most of them treated humans like interesting pets or primitive cousins. This woman had talked to him like an equal. 2 hours later, stood in the grand dining hall wearing his dress uniform. The human delegation was seated at a table near the back. Ambassador Park was making polite conversation with a minister, tried not to fall asleep standing up. Then the royal family entered. Emperor came first, tall and imposing. Behind him walked Princess. Stomach dropped, the woman from the garden, the woman he'd complained to about technology, the woman he'd called their systems overcomplicated nonsense. Princess' eyes found him across the hall. For a long moment they stared at each other, waited for guards to arrest him for insulting the princess. Instead, his lips curved into a small smile. She nodded slightly, so quickly that anyone not watching closely would miss it. The dinner began. Couldn't eat. His mind raced with everything he'd said in the garden. He'd been so casual, so informal. He'd criticized her people's greatest achievements. He was definitely getting sent back to Earth in disgrace. But when dessert was served, a palace servant appeared at the human table. "Lieutenant," the servant asked. "That's me," said his voice tight. "Princess requests your presence in the royal gardens tomorrow at noon. She has questions about human engineering philosophy." The servant bowed and left. Ambassador stared at, "What did you do?" "I fixed a gravity stabilizer," offered weakly. "The princess never requests private meetings with foreign delegates," another human diplomat whispered. "Especially not junior officers, especially not after she just rejected another suitor today." Looked across the hall. Princess was talking with her father, but once, just once, she glanced in his direction. When their eyes met, she didn't look angry, she looked interested. Had come to the Empire to review technical systems and file boring reports. He had not come to catch the attention of the most sought-after woman in the galaxy. A woman who had rejected war heroes, princes, and galactic leaders. Tomorrow at noon, he would find out what she wanted. Had a feeling his boring diplomatic mission had just become very complicated. Arrived at the royal gardens exactly at noon. He had barely slept, practicing apologies in his head. Princess was already there, sitting on a stone bench near a fountain that flowed upward instead of down. "You came," she said. "Of course. When a princess summons you, you come," shifted awkwardly. "Look, about yesterday, I'm really sorry. I didn't know who you were and I said some pretty disrespectful things about." Held up her hand. "Stop. I did not summon you for an apology. I summoned you because you were honest. Do you know how rare that is?" She gestured to the bench beside her. "Sit. I want to ask you something." Sat, keeping a respectful distance. "What do you want to know?" "You said humans value keeping things simple, but your species is barely exploring space. You have no telepathy, no natural armor, shorter. Why do you think your way is better?" "I never said better," replied carefully. "Just different. Humans learned early that we're not the strongest or fastest so we learn to adapt. We solve problems creatively. We build things that work with what we have, not what we wish we had." Considered this. "Interesting, tell me more about Earth." They talked for 2 hours, described cities and farms, forests and deserts. He told her about human music, how it made people feel emotions without words. Listened with complete focus, asking questions that showed she was really thinking about his answers. When finally returned to the human quarters, Ambassador was waiting with news. "The Council has made a request. They want the human delegation to participate in the courtship trials." "The what?" asked. "Princess must marry. The trials are a week-long competition where suitors prove their worth. The council thinks having Earth participate would be good for relations." Looked uncomfortable. "They want you to compete." "Me? Why me?" "Because the princess keeps requesting meetings with you." The council noticed. Emperor approved it, sighed. "I know this isn't what you signed up for, but this could be huge for Earth. A marriage alliance with the Empire would change everything for us." I'm not interested in marrying someone for politics, said firmly. Then compete and lose gracefully. Show that humans are respectful participants. That's all we ask. The trials began 3 days later, met the other suitors in the palace's grand arena. Princev was a tall, pale alien with golden eyes. He looked at like something he'd scraped off his shoe. A human. This is insulting. Commander of the Stellar Armada, a warrior covered in scars, merely nodded. Duke N, a shapeshifter currently looking like a handsome, smiled too widely. How charming. Earth sends us a mechanic. The first trial was announced, the test of intellect. Each suitor had to solve a complex quantum mathematics problem that would optimize palace energy distribution. The problem covered 3 massive display screens. Prince finished first, using telepathic calculations. Commander finished second with pure mathematical precision. Duke N gave up halfway through, stared at the problem, his head hurting. This is impossible, he muttered. Then he looked at it differently. They were trying to optimize every single energy flow. But what if you didn't need to? What if you just rerouted the excess? Ignored the complex math, and drew a simple diagram showing 3 bypass circuits. The palace energy system would waste a little power, but it would be stable and easy to maintain. The judges were silent, then one spoke. This is not the correct solution. But does it work? Asked. They ran simulations. It worked, not perfectly but reliably. Princess, watching from the royal box, smiled. That evening, found on a palace balcony, you did not solve the problem correctly. I solved it my way. Why do humans always find shortcuts? Because sometimes the long way is just wasting time. Leaned on the railing. Can I ask you something? Why did you really reject all those other suitors? Was quiet for a moment. They wanted my crown, my power, my family's influence. They looked at me and saw princess, future empress, key to galactic domination. She looked at the stars. Not one of them asked what I wanted. Not one of them cared about the person. That's rough, said. For what it's worth, I think you deserve better than that. What do you think I deserve? Someone who makes you laugh, someone who challenges you, someone who sees you, not your title. He paused. Someone you actually like talking to. Looked at him strangely. No one has ever said that before. The second trial came the next morning, the test of courage. The suitors had to navigate the void labyrinth, a dimension that shifted and changed as you walked through it. Reach the center and claim the victory crystal. Entered the labyrinth with the others. Inside, reality bent and twisted. Walls appeared and disappeared. Gravity shifted directions. He could hear the other suitors moving through different sections, their footsteps echoing strangely. Then heard a scream. Through a transparent section of wall, he saw Duke N trapped as a portal collapsed around him. The Duke would be crushed in seconds. Didn't think, he changed direction, running toward the Duke. Grab my hand. The trial, N shouted, you'll lose. I don't care, grab my hand. Pulled the Duke through just as the portal snapped shut. They collapsed on solid ground, breathing hard. An alarm sounded. Had left the labyrinth path. He was disqualified. Prince won the trial. Commander came second. As they emerged, sneered at, foolish human, you threw away your chance for nothing. I saved someone's life, said. That's not nothing. In the royal box, Princess stood abruptly. She walked down to the arena floor, her dress flowing behind her. The crowd went silent. Judge Master said clearly, I invoke royal privilege. Lieutenant is reinstated to the competition. The head judge bowed. Your Highness, he left the course. The rules. The rules test courage. Lieutenant showed true courage. He sacrificed his position to save another life. That is the highest form of bravery. His voice carried across the arena. If this competition is meant to find someone worthy, then we must recognize worth when we see it. He is reinstated. Prince's face twisted with rage. This is favoritism. This is judgment, replied coldly. Do you challenge my right to judge? Back down. No one challenged the princess directly. That night found a note slipped under his door. It was written in handwriting. Meet me in the gardens. We need to talk. When arrived was packing. The council is furious with me. My father is concerned. Prince is threatening to withdraw his alliance. I'm sorry I caused problems. Don't be. Stopped packing and looked at him. You did something no other suitor has ever done. You acted like a good person instead of trying to impress me. Do you know how rare that is? I wasn't trying to impress anyone. Someone needed help. Exactly. Stepped closer. Every other suitor calculated their moves. You just acted from the heart. Why? Because it was the right thing to do. Smiled, really smiled for the first time since had met her. Tomorrow is the third trial, the test of heart. Be ready. As walked back to his quarters, he realized something that made his stomach flip. Somewhere between fixing gravity stabilizers and saving shapeshifters, he had started to care what Princess thought of him. And that was dangerous, because she was a princess, and he was just a human engineer from a small planet on the edge of known space. This was going to get complicated. The palace was buzzing with tension. Prince had spent the entire morning spreading rumors through the court. Humans were manipulators, he claimed. Earth was using primitive charm to trick the princess. The empire was being weakened by allowing inferior species into sacred traditions. Ambassador pulled aside before breakfast. Half the council wants you removed from the trials. The other half sees you as a political opportunity. Either way, you're in the middle of something bigger than a courtship competition. I never wanted any of this, said. I know, but now that you're here, Earth needs you to handle it well. Whatever happens today, be respectful, be genuine, be yourself. The third trial was different from the others. All the suitors were brought to a sealed chamber. A priest explained the rules. The test of heart reveals your true nature. You will each face a choice. The choice you make will show the court what kind of person you really are. One by one, the suitors entered the trial chamber. Prince went first. When he emerged 15 minutes later, his face was angry. Commander went next, returning stone-faced. Duke N came out looking smug. Then it was turn. Inside the chamber, the walls shimmered. Suddenly, stood in a perfect illusion of the throne room. Princess was there, trapped behind a collapsing energy barrier. On the other side of the room sat the crown on a pedestal. A voice echoed through the chamber. Choose. Save the princess and lose the crown forever, or claim the crown and let her perish. This will reveal your heart's desire. Stared at the illusion. Something felt wrong. He walked toward, then stopped. He looked at the crown, then back at. Then he did something unexpected. He sat down on the floor. This is stupid, said to the empty air. This whole test is stupid. The voice spoke again. You must choose. No, I refuse, crossed his arms. You're trying to force a false choice. In real life, I'd find a third option. I'd disable the barrier or move the crown or call for help. Making someone prove love through a manipulated scenario is wrong. You must participate in the trial. Why? So you can judge me based on a fake situation. So you can reduce complex human emotions to a simple binary choice. Stood up. Princess deserves better than this. She deserves someone who would never put her in this position in the first place. Someone who sees this test for what it is, a game. And I don't play games with people's hearts. He walked to the chamber door and left. The court erupted in chaos when the judges announced what happened. Half the nobles called action disrespectful. The other half were fascinated. No one had ever refused to complete a trial before. Emperor stood. What were the results of the other suitors? The head judge looked uncomfortable. Prince chose the crown. Commander also chose the crown. Duke N chose the princess, but our telepaths detected he had studied the trial beforehand and knew the correct answer. So 3 suitors chose power or deception, the emperor said slowly, and 1 human refused to play the game at all. He looked at, "Daughter, what do you think?" All eyes turned to Princess. She stood slowly, her expression unreadable. "I think," she said clearly, "that this trial has revealed exactly what it was meant to reveal. The first three suitors showed their priorities. The fourth showed that some things should not be tested." She looked directly at, "But I will not be forced into a decision by tradition or trials or council pressure. I need time to think. I choose no one today." The court exploded with protests. Emperor raised his hand for silence. "The princess has spoken. The trials are concluded. We will reconvene in 3 days for her decision." That evening sat alone in the human quarters, thinking his diplomatic career was over. Then alarms blared through the palace. "Security breach," voices shouted. "Assassins in the East Wing." Ran toward the noise. Other guards and soldiers rushed past him. He turned a corner and saw 3 figures in black armor firing energy weapons. Palace guards fell around them. Then saw Princess at the end of the hallway, separated from her protection detail. One of the assassins raised their weapon toward her. Time seemed to slow down. Didn't think about politics or trials or the fact that he was unarmed. He just ran. He hit from the side, pushing her out of the way. The energy blast caught him in the chest instead. The impact felt like being hit by lightning and fire at the same time. Crashed to the floor, his vision going dark. He heard screaming his name, felt her hands on his face, then nothing. Woke up 3 days later in a white room filled with medical equipment. Every part of his body hurt. A doctor noticed him stirring and rushed over. "You should not be alive," the doctor said, scanning him with a device. "That blast should have killed a human instantly. Your species is too fragile for that level of energy damage." "Guess I'm stubborn," croaked. The door burst open. Princess rushed in, still wearing the same dress from 3 days ago. Her eyes were red like she'd been crying. "You're awake," she breathed. The doctor quietly left, giving them privacy. "You idiot," said her voice breaking. "You stupid, foolish, brave idiot. Why did you do that? You were in danger." Tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Seemed like the thing to do. "You could have died. But you didn't," managed a weak smile. "Good trade." Grabbed his hand, holding it tight. "I have not left this room except to wash and change clothes. The doctors said you would probably die. Your human body could not handle the damage, but you kept breathing. You kept fighting." "What happened to the assassins?" "Dead or captured. They were sent by the dynasty and backed by several other powers. They fear an alliance between Earth and... They wanted to kill me and blame it on your delegation to start a war." "Process this. Did it work? Are humans being blamed?" "No, because you saved my life in front of 20 witnesses." His grip on his hand tightened. "You proved that humans would die to protect. The council cannot ignore that." They sat in silence for a moment, then spoke quietly. "I have been thinking about what you said, about deserving someone who sees me as a person, someone who makes me laugh and challenges me." She looked at him with those dark eyes. "I have been taught my whole life that duty comes before desire, that love is a luxury for those without crowns, that I must marry for the empire, not for myself." "That sounds lonely," said. "It is. But then a human engineer complained about my technology and treated me like a normal person. He solved problems in ways I never imagined. He saved lives instead of seeking glory, and he looked at me and saw not a crown or a political opportunity. I was wrong to put you through those trials, wrong to let the council pressure me, wrong to think love had to be proven through tests." She raised his hand to her cheek. "You already proved everything that matters. You proved it in a garden when you were honest. You proved it in a labyrinth when you were kind. You proved it in a hallway when you were selfless." "What are you saying?" "I am saying that my father has called the Galactic Council. He is making an announcement tomorrow," smiled through tears. "And I am saying that when I was sitting here watching you fight to stay alive, I realized something. I do not want to rule the galaxy with someone chosen by trials and politics. I want to build a life with someone who makes me want to be better. Someone who showed me that strength is not about power, but about character. His heart was beating faster, and the medical monitors started beeping. Are you saying what I think you're saying? I am saying that you need to rest and heal, and then, if you want, we have much to discuss. Leaned down and kissed his forehead gently. The council wants to see you tomorrow. Can you walk? For you, I'll find a way. After left, lay back in bed, staring at the ceiling. He came to this planet to review technical systems. Now he was caught in galactic politics, assassination plots, and maybe, just maybe, falling in love with a princess who had rejected everyone else. Tomorrow would change everything. But for tonight, let himself hope that sometimes the best things in life are the ones you never planned for. Stood before the Galactic Council the next day, still weak but determined. The massive chamber held representatives from dozens of worlds. Emperor sat on his throne with Princess beside him. Ambassador and the human delegation sat in the Earth section, looking nervous. Emperor spoke first. The assassination attempt revealed something important. There are those who fear change, who fear Earth's growing influence, who fear what a true alliance between our peoples might mean. Prince stood from his seat. With respect, Your Majesty, the human was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He got lucky. This does not qualify him. He threw himself in front of an energy weapon to save my daughter's life, the Emperor interrupted coldly. That is not luck, that is character. The Emperor gestured to Ambassador. Earth has proposed a formal alliance treaty, military cooperation, technology exchange, cultural programs. This alliance does not require a royal marriage. Earth offers friendship, not political manipulation. Murmurs ran through the council. This was unexpected. However, the Emperor continued, my daughter has expressed a personal interest in exploring a relationship with Lieutenant. More murmurs, louder now. This is not a political arrangement. This is two young people who have earned the right to make their own choices. A counselor stood. Your Majesty, with respect, humans are an unknown factor. They have been spacefaring for less than a century. Their biology is weak. Their culture is primitive. How can we trust? They saved the princess when our own guards could not, the Emperor said flatly. They showed honor in trials designed to expose greed. They offered alliance without demanding power in return. What more proof do you need? Realized he needed to speak, he stepped forward. May I say something? The Emperor nodded. I understand your concerns, began, his voice echoing in the huge chamber. Humans are new to the galactic community. We are weaker than most species. We have shorter lives. Our technology is less advanced, but we have something that matters. He looked around the room. We have learned that survival is not about being the strongest. It is about adapting, about working together, about seeing value in differences instead of fearing them. He turned to face Princess. I did not come here looking for power or glory or a royal marriage. I came to fix machines and file reports, but I met someone who challenged everything I thought I knew, someone who made me want to be better. And when she was in danger, I did not think about politics or species or consequences. I just knew I could not let her die. Pretty words, Prince sneered, but humans are still inferior. Maybe, agreed, surprising everyone. We cannot read minds like you. We cannot shapeshift like Duke N. We do not have natural armor like Commander's people, but we have imagination. We have empathy. We have the ability to see beyond what is and imagine what could be. And maybe, just maybe, that is what the galaxy needs right now. Not more power, but more understanding. The chamber was silent. Then Emperor smiled. Well said, Lieutenant, he stood. I am creating a new position, Ambassador Consort. It will allow my daughter to marry outside traditional nobility while maintaining her royal duties. This is unprecedented, but these are unprecedented times. The council erupted in discussion. The Emperor raised his hand for quiet. However, there is a condition. Lieutenant must prove he can bridge both worlds. He must spend 1 year traveling between Earth and establishing cultural and technology exchange programs. After that year, if both he and my daughter still wish to proceed, they may marry with my blessing. Looked at, she nodded slightly, hope in her eyes. I accept, said. The council had no choice but to accept the emperor's decision. Some were angry, others intrigued. But the treaty was signed that day, creating the Earth Alliance. The next months were intense. Traveled constantly, setting up programs that brought human and engineers together. He established art exchanges, musical performances, educational partnerships. Every 2 weeks, he returned to the palace for a few days, spending time with. They walked in the gardens, talking for hours. They attended diplomatic functions together, learning to navigate galactic politics as a team. Slowly, surely, they fell in love. One evening, 6 months into the year, they sat under the stars on a palace observation deck. Earth was visible in the distance, a blue and green marble. Do you miss it? Asked. Your home. Sometimes, admitted. I miss the simplicity, the smell of rain, coffee in the morning, but I don't regret being here. This must be so different from what you imagined your life would be. Everything about you is different from what I imagined. Took her hand. When I was a kid on Earth, I dreamed about exploring space, meeting aliens, seeing new worlds. I never dreamed I would meet someone like you. Someone stubborn and difficult, teased. Someone brilliant and brave and real, squeezed her hand. Someone who makes me want to build bridges between worlds because I cannot imagine a future where we are not together. Leaned her head on his shoulder. The council still has doubts. They worry that a human cannot handle the pressures of royal life, that you will age faster than me and leave me alone, that our children, if we have them, will be caught between two worlds. Those are valid concerns. You are supposed to argue with me, said. Why, they are valid, but I think love is worth fighting for anyway. Turned to face her. Yes, I will age faster. Yes, our lives will be complicated. Yes, there will be people who never accept us. But when I look at you, I see someone worth all of that and more. Kissed him then, soft and sweet under the alien stars. When they pulled apart, she was crying. Why are you crying? Asked, worried. Because I spent my whole life rejecting people who only wanted my crown. And now I have found someone who would give up everything for me, crown or no crown. How did I get so lucky? I think we both got lucky. The months continued, visited Earth and brought with him. She walked through human cities, amazed by the diversity. She visited art museums and concert halls. She met his family, his parents, his younger sister, and they welcomed her warmly. Your world is so chaotic, said one evening in New York City, watching the crowded streets. So many people, so many cultures, all mixed together. Does it bother you? Asked. No, it is beautiful. On everything is ordered and controlled. Here, life is messy and unpredictable. I like it. Back on, worked with the Imperial Guard to upgrade palace security systems. He trained with them, earned their respect through hard work and humility. The common people began to see him not as a foreign interloper, but as someone who genuinely cared about their world. The year passed quickly. Programs that had started were flourishing. Human and scientists were collaborating on medical research. Artists from both worlds were creating new forms of expression. Children were learning each other's languages. 3 days before the year ended, Emperor called to a private meeting. You have done well, Lieutenant, the Emperor said. Better than I expected, honestly. You have built real bridges between our peoples. Thank you, Your Majesty. My daughter loves you. I can see it in her eyes. She is happier than I have ever seen her. The Emperor's expression grew serious. But I must ask you directly, are you prepared for what this life will mean? The scrutiny, the pressure, the responsibility. Honestly, I am terrified, admitted. I am just an engineer from Earth. I never imagined any of this. But I love your daughter, and I will spend every day trying to be worthy of her." "That is the right answer," the Emperor smiled. "In 3 days, the Galactic Council will gather for the formal ceremony. Are you ready?" "Yes, Your Majesty, I am ready." That night found on their favorite balcony, looking at the stars. "1 year," she said softly. "It went so fast." "Are you having doubts?" asked. "No, are you?" "Not even a little bit," wrapped his arms around her from behind. "I was just thinking about how a year ago, I was a junior officer complaining about gravity stabilizers, and now I am about to marry a princess and become part of something bigger than I ever imagined." "You are not marrying a princess," corrected. "You are marrying me. The person who loves how you solve problems and the way you see the universe, and the fact that you still curse at technology when you think no one is listening." Laughed, "Fair enough." 3 days until everything changed. 3 days until a human and an alien princess would stand before the galaxy and promise to build a future together. It was terrifying and exciting and absolutely right. The ceremony hall was packed with representatives from across the galaxy. Stood in his formal uniform, trying not to shake. Ambassador stood beside him, acting as his official witness. "Nervous," she whispered. "Completely terrified," admitted. "Good, that means you understand what you are getting into," smiled. "Earth is proud of you. You have done more for our place in the galaxy than 1,000 diplomats could have." The music started. Everyone stood. Princess entered wearing a dress that combined in human design elements, flowing purple fabric with earth silk embroidered with stars. She looked stunning. As she walked down the aisle, thought about the journey that brought them here. A broken gravity stabilizer, a conversation in a garden, impossible trials and impossible choices, an assassination attempt and a year of building bridges between worlds, all of it leading to this moment. Reached him and took his hands. Up close, he could see she was nervous too. Emperor stood to perform the ceremony. "We gather today to witness something unprecedented, a union between species, between worlds, between different ways of seeing the universe." He looked at the assembled crowd. "Some have said this is wrong, that traditions should not be broken, that humans are too different, too new, too weak." The Emperor's voice grew stronger. "But I look at these two young people and I see the future. Not a future of one species dominating others, but a future where differences are celebrated, where strength comes from cooperation, not conquest, where love is more important than power." He turned to and, "You will face challenges, people will doubt you, some will try to divide you, but if you hold to what brought you together, honesty, kindness, and genuine respect, you will change the galaxy." The ceremony proceeded with both and human traditions, and exchanged vows in both languages. When it came time for vows, he spoke from the heart. "I came to your world expecting to fix machines and file reports. Instead, I found someone who showed me that the most important things we build are not devices or ships, but connections between hearts." His voice caught. "You taught me that being different is not being weak. You challenged me to see beyond what is and imagine what could be. I promise to stand beside you, not behind you or in front of you, but beside you as we face whatever comes." His vows were equally moving. "I rejected 47 suitors because they saw a crown, not a person. You saw me. You treated me like not princess. You showed me that true strength is not in power or status, but in character and choice." She smiled through tears. "I promise to build a future with you where love matters more than tradition, where creativity matters more than convention, and where we write our own story together." When they were declared bonded in both and human law, the hall erupted in applause. Even Prince, sitting in the back, nodded grudgingly. The celebration that followed lasted 3 days. Humans and danced together to music from both worlds. Sister became fast friends with some nobles, already planning cultural exchange programs. Ambassador negotiated 6 new treaties while somehow also drinking wine and telling jokes. But the real work began after the celebration ended. over the next 5 years and became co-ambassadors, traveling the galaxy together. They visited worlds that had never seen a human before and introduced culture to isolated Earth colonies. They mediated disputes, established trade routes, and proved that different species could work together. Earth's position in the galactic community grew stronger. No longer seen as primitive outsiders, humans became known for their creativity, empathy, and ability to solve problems in unconventional ways. Technology improved as engineers learned to appreciate human simplicity and practicality. But the biggest change was personal. 3 years after the wedding gave birth to a daughter. They named her Sola, meaning sun in an ancient Earth language and hope in old. She was the first human hybrid ever born. The galaxy watched nervously. Would the child be healthy? Would the genetic combination work? Doctors from dozens worlds studied her development. Sola proved to be perfectly healthy. She had her mother's dark eyes and her father's stubborn determination. She could not read minds like Full, but she was smarter than average humans. She got sick less than humans but needed more sleep than. She was, in every way, a bridge between two species. One evening, when Sola was 2 years old, found in their quarters watching their daughter play. Sola was stacking blocks in increasingly complex patterns, talking to herself in a mix of human and languages. "What are you thinking about?" asked, sitting beside his wife. "I am thinking about how 5 years ago, I was ready to live my whole life alone rather than marry someone who did not see me as a person," said. "And now I have a family I never imagined possible." "Regret anything?" "Not even for a second," leaned against him. "The council finally stopped questioning your position last month. Did you hear?" "Really, only took them 5 years. You won them over by being yourself, by showing that humans bring value to the Empire, by proving that different does not mean lesser." Watched Sola build an impossible tower that should have fallen but somehow stayed standing. "Our daughter does that too. She thinks like a human and feels like a. She is going to change the galaxy." "No pressure on her then," joked. They sat in comfortable silence, watching Sola play. The little girl had her father's curiosity and her mother's determination. She asked endless questions about everything. Why did stars shine? Where did gravity come from? Why could some people read minds but not her? Knew those questions would get harder as she grew up. Questions about where she belonged, whether she was human or something else entirely. Questions about prejudice and identity and finding her place in the universe. But they would face those challenges together. Years passed. Sola grew into a bright, confident child who moved easily between human and worlds. She attended school on Earth and the palace on, learning from both cultures. Other mixed families began to emerge as more humans and married. Work with technology exchange programs revolutionized several industries. Ships became easier to maintain. Human medicine improved with alien techniques. The galaxy became more connected, not through conquest or domination, but through cooperation and mutual respect. On their 10th anniversary, and returned to the garden where they first met. The gravity stabilizer that had brought them together was still there, now maintained by a team of human engineers working together. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if that machine had not broken?" asked. "Sometimes," admitted. "I would have finished my review, filed my reports, and gone home. You would have rejected another suitor. We never would have met. The galaxy would be very different." "Better or worse?" "Considered this. Different, humans would still be outsiders, I would still be lonely, our daughter would not exist." She took his hand. "So yes, definitely worse." Pulled her close. "You know what I learned from all this? The best things in life are the ones you do not plan for. I did not plan to meet a princess. I did not plan to fall in love. I did not plan to help change the galaxy, but I am so glad I did." "Me too." They watched the sunset together, the twin suns of painting the sky in colors that Earth never saw. In the distance, they could hear Sola playing with other children, both human and alien, their laughter mixing in the evening air. Princess had rejected everyone who approached her, searching for someone who saw past her crown. She found a human engineer who complained about her technology and treated her like a person. Together, they proved that the strongest bonds are built not on power or tradition, but on genuine connection, mutual respect, and the courage to choose love over expectation. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly how it should be. Years later, when historians wrote about this era, they called it the Great Unification, the time when different species learned to work together not because they had to, but because they chose to. At the center of that change was a princess who dared to follow her heart and a human who showed the galaxy that sometimes the best way to solve an impossible problem is to think about it differently. Sola grew up to become a diplomat like her parents, using her unique perspective to bridge divides across the galaxy. She married a scientist from a third species, continuing the tradition of building connections. Her children carried genes from 3 different worlds, proof that the future belonged to those willing to embrace differences rather than fear them. But on quiet evenings when the galaxy's problems seemed too big to solve, Sola would remember her father's words. Start small, fix what is in front of you, build one connection at a time. Eventually, those small fixes add up to something amazing. And her mother's wisdom: never let anyone tell you that following your heart makes you weak. The strongest thing you can do is choose love when the world expects power. The story of how a princess rejected everyone until a human won her heart became legend. Children across the galaxy heard it as a bedtime story. Young people saw it as proof that love could overcome any obstacle. Diplomats studied it as an example of how personal relationships could change political landscapes. But for Anne, it was simply their life. A life built on a foundation of mutual respect, genuine affection, and the willingness to see beyond differences to the person underneath. She rejected everyone who approached until a human won the alien princess's heart. But the truth was simpler and more beautiful than any legend. She did not need to be won. She just needed to be seen. And once she was, everything else fell into place.